Hello everybody, welcome to my channel. My name's Mel. Thank you so much for joining me today for a BookTuber book recommendations video. So this is my third video of these videos that I have been doing now for a little while. I've seen a few different people in different spots on BookTube do something along these lines, and I thought it seemed like a really fun idea. So I will link my original version of this and then the most recent version of this that I did a few months ago, so you can go and check them out if you'd like to in the description below. But basically what I do is I pick 8 different booktubers and I recommend books to them. I did say in both my previous versions that if you would like me to recommend a book to you, then comment below and I will do that in the next one that I do. So in the last one that I did, I had 3 people comment to say yes, they'd like me to recommend a book to them. So thank you so much to those 3 people. 2 of those people I had not actually come across their channels before, so it meant that I was able to go ahead and subscribe to some new booktubers, which is something that I always really enjoy doing, finding new people to communicate with and to watch, and yeah, so that was really great. So thank you to those people. And the other people that I'm going to be recommending books to today are just booktubers that I really enjoy, who I am going to take a shot at recommending books to them. So let's start out with the 3 booktubers who did comment on my previous video. The first person that commented was Paige from Pages with Paige. So Paige, I am going to recommend to you that you read Neverwhere by Neil Gaiman. Now, for reasons, I did actually have a look through a spreadsheet that Paige sent me with all of her owned TBR. So I do know that this is a book that Paige would like to read, and I do think that you would really enjoy this book. I know that you like magical realism, I know that you like books that are paranormal, I know that you like books where there's sort of like a version of our world, but there's something a bit different, a bit fantastical about it. So I do think that you'd really enjoy Neverwhere. I actually sent Paige a message asking her if she had ever been to London, and she said no. The reason why I asked that question is because when I first read Neverwhere, I actually was living in London at the time, and I found that experience of reading the book based in a city where I was living really enhanced my reading of the book. Now, that's not to say that if you'd not been to London that you wouldn't understand or wouldn't enjoy the book. I just think that there were some little comments and little jokes that rang even more amusing or rang even more interestingly, I guess, if you had an understanding of what those places were or why Gaiman was making those jokes. But nonetheless, Paige, I still really think that you would really enjoy this one. I really loved it. I have read it a few times now. I'd be more than happy to reread it, so if you did want to buddy read it, then let me know. But yeah, the book that I'm recommending to you, Paige, is Neverwhere by Neil Gaiman. The next person who actually commented on my previous video and asked for me to recommend a book to them was Jem from Gem of Books. So thank you so much for commenting on my video, Jem, and particularly because that was the reason why I then went over and subscribed to your channel. So that's really fantastic. It's great to meet new people, and I've been really enjoying your content. So I had a little bit of a look at a few different videos where you talk about some of your favourite books of all time, books that you're intending to read and all of that sort of thing. And I did notice that a book that you did mention that you would potentially like to read at some point is Ariadne by Jennifer Saint. I would like to implore you to go ahead and read that book. I read it about 3 or 4 months ago, I think now, and absolutely loved it. I thought it was a really fantastic retelling of Ariadne's story. So when I say retelling, it's not a retelling in the same way as something like ACOTAR is a retelling of Beauty and the Beast. It is very much Ariadne's story. So it takes place in the time when, were Ariadne a real person, she very much would have lived, but it tells her story. It gives us her point of view and her motivations and what's going on for her at the time. It talks also about the Minotaur and gives some different understandings of the Minotaur and how that all kind of played out. I thought it was really well written. I really enjoyed it, like I said, and I know that you did say that it was something that you would like to read, and I do think that given that you seem to really enjoy other books about mythology, Greek mythology in particular, but mythology in general, you also seem to really enjoy historical fiction and some sort of historical fiction with a little bit of fantasy thrown in. So for this reason, I do think that you would really enjoy Ariadne by Jennifer Saint. So I think you should read it. The third person who commented on my previous video and requested that I recommend a book to them was Leah from Pen to Paper. So thank you so much, Leah, for commenting. Thank you to everyone for subscribing to my channel who has, but thank you to Jem and Leah for subscribing to my channel. And like I said, for commenting on that video and getting involved. And yeah, Leah's channel is another channel that I have found as a result of that video, which is really fantastic and really fun. Leah is both a booktube and authortuber, so she does some videos that are about what she's been reading and also some videos about writing, different advice for writers and that sort of thing. I definitely recommend that you go and check out both their channels. They're both really lovely and fantastic content creators. So I watched a few of your recent reads videos when I was making my list. I noticed that you were really enjoying Leigh Bardugo, so I'm going to recommend to you that you read Ninth House by Leigh Bardugo. So this is Leigh Bardugo's, I think, 2019 release, and it is actually an adult book. So previously her books had been young adult. This is an adult paranormal, a dark academia book. I really enjoyed it when I read it, I think at the beginning of last year. I found it really atmospheric. I found it really full on, but in a really fun way, if that makes sense. So there's some trigger warnings to do with abuse and to do with assault. So just be careful going in if that's something that would trigger you, Leah, and anyone else that is considering reading the book. But based on the fact that you've been really enjoying Leigh Bardugo, I do think that you would really enjoy this book. Although having said that, I have heard from other people who love Leigh Bardugo's other books that they don't necessarily like Ninth House as much. I've only read Ninth House and Shadow and Bone. I love Ninth House. Thought Shadow and Bone was okay. I'm still going to recommend Ninth House. Personally, I really enjoyed it, so I'm really hoping that you do as well. The rest of the booktubers that I'm going to recommend books to today are booktubers who I have just randomly decided that I would like to recommend books to. Most of these people are people that I have somewhat been in contact with over the course of the time that I have been involved in making booktube videos and content. I am 90% certain that most of these people are subscribed to my channel, but obviously not 100% sure, so I will try and let them know that I have suggested books for them to read, but we'll just see how we go. I just wanted to get out there and, you know, make some suggestions, so that's what I'm doing. So the next person that I would like to recommend a book to is Jenna from Just a Little Bit Random. Jenna is a fellow Australian booktuber, and she is also one of the hosts to the Hemisphere Christmas Games, which is a readathon that is currently happening in December that I am one of the hosts for, so I'll link the information should you want to go and get involved, find out all of that sort of stuff. But anyway, Jenna is one of the hosts for that readathon, so thank you for helping out with that, Jenna. But today I would like to recommend to you An Absolutely Remarkable Thing by Hank Green. Now the reason for that is because I know that you read a lot of YA, I know that you really enjoy a lot of young adult fantasy and young adult contemporary. I'm not 100% sure that you read a huge amount of sci-fi, but this particular sci-fi, it's almost like a contemporary that has a sci-fi element to it rather than being a full in-depth sci-fi space opera or space adventure or, you know, AI adventure or anything like that. So it has sci-fi elements to it, but like I said, it feels more like a YA or a new adult than it does feel like a sci-fi. I really think that you would enjoy this because I personally really enjoyed the humour in this. I think Hank Green has a really irreverent way of talking and a reverent way of narrating his story. It has quite a bit of sort of satirical humour in it, which I think is really well done. The main character is I think she's like 20 or so, young woman, and she's involved in social media. I believe that's her career, and I found that really interesting. Hank himself has always been involved in social media. He is quite a big YouTuber. He runs a few different YouTube channels, one of which the Sci Show, I should say, started out as like a YouTube channel that was talking about different aspects of science, and now has branched out, and there are, I'm not sure how many different variants of the Sci Show with a number of different people who are involved, but yeah. So he definitely knows a lot of stuff about science and science fiction, which you can really tell in the book. So I do think that you would really enjoy it. I really like the main character, April's character. I think that she was really well written, and yeah, I just think it's something that you would really, really enjoy, and I would like to recommend An Absolutely Remarkable Thing by Hank Green. The next person that I'd like to recommend a book to is Kenya from Reviews May Vary. Now, the book that I'm recommending to you, Kenya, is Dirk Gently's Holistic Detective Agency by Douglas Adams. The reason that I'm recommending this book to you is because I cannot for the life of me remember what video it was in, but a video that I watched at some point when I was trying to figure out what books you might like. You were talking about the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy series, and you were talking about how you really wanted to find a book that was funny and still made comments on society in the way that Douglas Adams does in Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, and also a book or series that was quite irreverent and sarcastic in the way that he is in those books. And I thought, what better than to recommend to you another book written by Douglas Adams, like I said, which is Dirk Gently's Holistic Detective Agency. This series of books takes some of the more satirical, off-the-wall aspects of the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy series and really hams it up, so it is quite ridiculous in a lot of ways, but I think that there are elements in the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy series that you seem to be talking about really enjoying, in that sort of more ridiculous aspects of the books, the more irreverent and satirical and silly aspects of the book that you really, really enjoyed. So I do think that you'd really, really enjoy the Dirk Gently's Holistic Detective Agency. As a side note, if for some reason you don't wish to read that book, or you cannot find it because it is actually also pretty old now, there is a Netflix series that is inspired by the book. It doesn't follow the happenings of the book at all. It has its own storyline, but I do think it has captured the essence of the weird and wonderful, over-the-top, satirical nature of Douglas Adams' writing, particularly in Dirk Gently's Holistic Detective Agency. So I would actually recommend that you do both, that you read the book and watch the series, because like I said, you wouldn't have to read one before watching the other or anything like that. But I do think that you would really enjoy Dirk Gently's Holistic Detective Agency by Douglas Adams. The next person that I would like to recommend a book to is Emma from Drinking by My Shelf. I know that Emma reads a lot of quite odd books that have odd twists to them, books that don't necessarily follow a specific, well, not that don't follow a specific plot, because I don't think that's necessarily the case, but books that don't necessarily follow a more contemporary flow or a more contemporary sort of way of looking at things. So Emma, I think that you would really enjoy The Rain Heron by Robbie Arnott. This is an Australian book that I read at some point in the middle of the year. Personally, I really enjoyed it, although it didn't blow me away as it has seemed to other friends of mine, but I did think that it was really well written. There's a number of different storylines that you are following that sort of weave together to make a whole. There is a supernatural element, but it is not a fantasy book, it is not over the top, it's definitely literary fiction with a fantastical supernatural element, which I think is done really well and is actually quite beautiful. So yeah, it's kind of weird, it's kind of wonderful, but I think that you'd really, really, really enjoy it. So Emma, I am recommending to you that you read The Rain Heron by Robbie Arnott. The next person that I'd like to recommend a book to is Crystal from Bonn Book Reviews. So recently I did a video where I asked a bunch of different booktubers to recommend a book to me and to film a little clip of them recommending a book to me, which I then spliced together, and Crystal was one of those people, and Crystal recommended The Great Alone by Kristen Hanna. I've not read any Kristen Hanna books, but the way that she described it as being probably a mix between literary fiction and women's fiction. It's historical, it's quite sort of broad, we follow a bunch of different characters, we follow different generations of characters. I believe she said there was kind of a bit of a mystery in it, and on the basis of the description of that book and other descriptions of other Kristen Hanna books that I've heard, I think that Crystal, you would really like The Secret Keeper by Kate Morton. So The Secret Keeper follows a few different points of view and a few different timelines, and we are unraveling a mystery surrounding something that happened in one of the main character Laurel's childhood that she witnessed that was quite a big thing, and something that she is trying as an adult, trying to find answers for and try to figure out what was going on with that. We follow Laurel in the present. I think it's actually 2011, but present for when it was written. And then we follow Laurel's mother's story in the Second World War in the UK, and we switch backwards and forwards between different points of view. We also get a few different other characters along the way. I think it's really well written, and yeah, I just think it's something based on some of the books that I have, other books that I've seen that you have enjoyed, and in particular this book that you recommended to me. I think that you would really enjoy this book. So that is what I'm recommending to you, The Secret Keeper by Kate Morton. And the final person that I would like to recommend a book to today is Olivia Savannah from Olivia's Catastrophe. Again, I'm actually basing my recommendation on Olivia's recommendation to me in the video I just mentioned, and that is Middlesex by Jeffrey Eugenides. I read this book a couple of months ago now, and I really enjoyed it. It is literary fiction, and it is sort of similar to the book I was just talking about, except that instead of switching backwards and forwards, we start at the main character and the person whose point of view we are listening to. We start with their grandparents, and then their parents, and then them, and we explore their life and what's happened in their life and what's happened in their family's lives and how it has changed them and the experiences that they've had along the way. The main character is Cal, and Cal was born Calliope. They are a hermaphrodite, and it is not revealed until they're a teenager. That's essentially what the book is about. You recommended to me a book because you saw that I had liked The Goldfinch by Donna Tartt, and the book that you recommended to me was quite similar, you felt, in sort of writing style and vibes to The Goldfinch by Donna Tartt. As I was reading Middlesex by Jeffrey Eugenides, I felt like it had similarities to The Goldfinch in terms of the way that it was written, writing style, and also a little bit to do with vibes and how I sort of was feeling as I was reading it. So for that reason, I think that you would really enjoy Middlesex by Jeffrey Eugenides. So those are all of the books that I would like to recommend to all of those different people. I really hope that everyone who I've talked to in this video, I hope that if you get around to taking these recommendations and reading any of these books, that you will enjoy the books. Please comment below and let me know if you have read any of these books, both the people who I'm recommending specifically to, but anyone else who would like to. Let me know if you've read any of these books, what you thought of them, if you would like to read them off the bat of my recommendations. Again, to the people specifically mentioned, but anyone else as well. If you would like to leave me a comment but you don't know what, then please leave me a stack of books emoji, since we have quite a stack of books recommended to different people. All of my social media details are listed in the description below, so if you'd like to go and follow me on any of those other platforms, please feel free to do so. Thank you so much for watching. I really do hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, I would absolutely love it if you would subscribe to my channel and give this video a thumbs up. And yeah, like I said, thank you so much for watching. I really do hope you enjoyed this video, and I will see you next time.